The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
When we're laying on our deathbed, you're not going to worry about how much money you had, how much power you had, how much prestige. You're going to see that that was all game, that was all an illusion. The only thing that's going to matter is the impact you had on other people's lives.
We are all on a separate journey. But the beautiful thing about our life here on this earth is at my funeral, they ain't going to talk about my success. They're going to talk about who Nick was and how Nick lived and how Nick loved and encouraged.
Success is incredibly important, but even more important than success, it's having an impact. It's knowing you haven't walked the planet in vain. It's knowing that because you've been here, you've blessed lives, you've developed people, and you have made the world a better place.
The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
Life is a mirror, and life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
Have you ever stopped to wonder about the soul behind the spotlight? The truth behind the headlines? Beneath every glamorous facade lies a story waiting to be told. A journey full of triumphs, struggles, heartaches, and victories. Welcome to People, the groundbreaking new series here on the Alpha Warrior Show. Tonight, we're setting politics aside. No hidden agendas, no filters, just pure, raw humanity. In a world that constantly tries to categorize us, it's easy to forget what binds us together. Our shared experiences, our laughter, our tears, and the authentic moments that define who we truly are. Each week, we're going to explore the powerful, emotional, and beautiful imperfect lives of people who inspire us, captivate us, and remind us that we're all in this incredibly messy and extraordinary journey together. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, and we'll dive deep into the stories that often go untold, unapologetically, real, and deeply personal. Get ready to meet the heart behind the headlines, the reality behind the reputation, the persona behind the person, the grit that makes these amazing people tick. This is People, real stories, real connections, real life. And when we come back from this commercial, it's showtime, and I hope you enjoy.
Your body doesn't need more synthetic fixes. It needs real plant medicine. Wild herbs are packed with minerals, adaptogens, and healing compounds your body actually recognizes and can use, supporting energy, immunity, and balance from the inside out. At Tamarack Garden, our supplements bring these overlooked weeds and wildflowers back into your daily routine. Don't just manage symptoms, support your body and eat your weeds. Head to tamarackgarden.com for $10 off your order of $50 or more when you use code BADLANDS at checkout.
Well, folks, have you checked out the Badlands shop lately? You might be surprised by what you've been missing. From thoughtful gifts and unique finds to everyday household essentials and personal care must-haves, there's truly something for everyone at the Badlands shop. But here's what makes it different. Every single purchase you make is so much more than just buying stuff. You're investing in directly into the movement. You're empowering America First businesses, lifting up fellow Badlanders, and supporting the creators who are building this community with us. Thank you for being a part of this. Your support really does mean a lot. Head on over now to badlandsmedia.tv/shop or click shop on the main menu at badlandsmedia.tv and discover your new favorite brands. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop. And with that, folks, with Tamarack Gardens, make sure you go check out episode 3 of America First Stories on Badlands Media. And then, of course, got a sponsor here that I also want to put up. You're going to see a QR code screen on the Alpha Warrior Show Rumble channel. So if you're like, I don't see it, it's because that's where it's at. And I'm talking about MCG Tactical, folks. Precision gear, unmatched performance always. What are we talking about? You know how dialing in your optic can burn through boxes of ammo and half your weekend? Well, not anymore. With the Boresighter, you can zero in any optic under 90 seconds without firing a single shot. That's a total game changer. Zero faster than ever, from the small calibers all the way up to a 50 caliber. No ammo, no range time, USB rechargeable, and ready to go every time. Whether you're getting prepared for hunting season or you're just keeping your gear dialed in, the Bore will save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. So to grab yours, just scan the QR code on the screen and head over to mcgtac.com/alphabore to get the faster, easiest way to zero in your optic, period. Again, folks, it's faster, it's easier, it's smarter. Ready to dial it in? Scan that QR code or visit mcgtac.com/alphabore. Folks, I really do hope you enjoy this next conversation that's going to be popping up on the screen. I did it yesterday with Steve Stern. I've had the opportunity to meet this man in person. And let me tell you guys, there are some people that are not just wives, but they have a love of country. And this guy doesn't need to be doing what he's doing, but he is. He truly, truly loves this country. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. I'll be monitoring the chat to have a conversation with you guys, and I'll see you guys at the end. So enjoy this interview. Folks, remember, support the people, support this show. As always, extraordinary people find their way to the show, people. And today is definitely not that exception. The gentleman I have here has served this country. This man has done a lot and doesn't have to do anymore, but he does. And he does because there's a love for country that I hope more people begin to adopt. So with that, let me bring the gentleman we want to hear from today, Steve Stern. Thank you for joining me and my audience. I know times are busy.
Well, never too busy to be on the show. And, next week I turn 85. So let's go back. We've been in business 72 years. And I started in business with my father when I was 12 years old. Came down from Brooklyn. And my dad was in the shirt business, as you can see back here. And actually, I'm in the shirt business. So what happened was his father and brother were barbers in Miami Beach. And they told him I had a hotel here for him when he came down to rent. So we got down there and I saw all the palm trees. Never had seen a palm tree in my life at 12 years old. And when we got down there, they told, well, we thought we had a hotel, but we didn't. So we got all the way down to Miami Beach and had nothing really to do. So my dad decided to rent a hotel with his brothers, and they did that. Didn't like it, so he started in the wholesale business, and I would come down after school. And this was when all the Cubans came from Cuba to Miami to get out when when this whole turned bad in Cuba. And I would go down and speak to them. They wouldn't speak English. I wouldn't speak Spanish. So we kind of learned each other. And the one thing they always taught me was work hard and be honest. And that's my motto. And as I evolved into the business with my dad, when I was about 16, I went to New York City and I went through the Empire State Building knocking on doors. Now, you could tell I'm an aggressive guy because who's crazy enough at 85 to be working 12 days a week? Oh, there's only 7, but I work 12. And 13, 14 hours a day, involved in many things. But let's talk about how we got into the shirt business. So my dad didn't like the hotel business, and he went in with a couple of partners into the shirt business, and I came down every day. After school, I would take the bus and I would learn everything about the business. And it started evolving, as I said, when I went to New York in the Empire State Building, and I was knocking on doors, and a gentleman had said to me, "Come on in and let me show you around." And he showed me around. He said, "You know, you look like a nice young man. Tell me what you do." And I told him. He said, "Well, I'm going to make you a rich guy." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you know, I have no children, and I'm going to take you over to Korea." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can even go." But anyway, I did go with him. And a strange thing happened. On Miami Beach, there were 4 men's stores. And we had this little shirt business. And he took me over there. And I don't tell the story too much. It's the first time actually telling the story. And there was 4 stores on 4 corners. And back then, these were older men's stores, and they catered to many people coming down from all over the United States. And what they wanted was a little shirt with 2 pockets and a square bottom. So I went into one of the guys, and he showed me what to do, and I took it overseas. And this guy said to me, "Well, you got to buy about 500 dozen shirts at a time." I said, "Well, we can't use that many." He said, "Well, I'll cut them in long sleeve, and you cut them in short sleeve." So I went to the guy, showed it to him. "Hey, I love these shirts." And he put them in the front of the window, and he said, "How can I get more?" And he started selling them terrific. So the guy across the street saw me over there, and he said, "Come on in my store. I'd like to buy the shirts you're selling to this guy." I said, "Well, you know, I can't sell you the same shirts, but let me make some different ones." So we made some different ones, and now we're on the 2 opposite sides of the corner. And the 2 guys on the other side of the 2 guys, they said, "Hey, we'd like to buy your shirts, and we'd like to buy the ones in those stores." I said, "I'm sorry, I got to give you different patterns." So the whole story of this thing is I sold the 4 guys, but I had to sell them different patterns, and I had to make different patterns, because you always have to be honest in business. And the business evolved. And as it got bigger and bigger, while I was 18 years old, I went to Dallas, Texas, and I went to a men's show there, and I'm walking around, and a guy sees me looking at his booth. Now, if people are listening ever sort of, to a men's show, there's tons of people showing their different products. So this guy says to me, he says, "You look like a smart guy." I said, "Well, I'm just learning the business." He said, "Well, I'm going to teach you something." He said, "I'm going to make you a millionaire." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you see these shirts on the wall up here. I sold them to JC Penney for many years. I'm 80 years old. And of course, I was 18 at that time. And he said, "I want to retire. I own half of Laguna Beach, and I'd like to, enjoy myself." I said, "Well, what should I do?" He said, "Well, get those shirts, go to JC Penney, take the labels out of them, put your labels in, and put them up on one of your shows." Well, I did that, and 2 guys from JC Penney Pompano, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, they came to my show, and they said, "This is exactly what we're looking for." These are what they call banded bottom shirts. So we're actually today the largest producer of banded bottom shirts in the world. And what a banded bottom shirt is a shirt that has a little band on the bottom, so that if you're don't want to tuck your shirts in, you wear them on the outside. And of course, that went to probably your grandfather or your dad. And JC Penney started selling them, and I would go into the Miami buying office. They had a buying office, Miami buying office in New York, buying office in California. But I was instructed to go to the Miami office, and we built a business there. And I started developing more and more shirts for them. And to make a long story short, I sold them $14 million a year for 44 years and designed a line of conservative men's shirts for them. And as we built the business, one of the things, I'm a big guy on phone calls. So how did I do this? Well, what I do, I would go to the JC Penney buying office. The buyer wanted to make a name for himself, and he saw I was an aggressive guy. He says, "Hey, use my phones. I want you to call the stores, and I want you to sell your shirts." I said, "Well, that's terrific." So I would go there pretty much every day. I'd, call the stores. They'd buy the shirts. I'd take them over to my dad's, to the warehouse. They would ship them, go back. We'd do this continuous until we built this, until it was so big that they decided that they were closing the Miami buying office, and I was instructed to go to Plano, Texas, and we built this into something very big. Then about, I would say about 3 or 4 years prior to 9/11, as you see back here, we own the largest patriotic website in the world. And if people go to the flagshirt.com, and it's a funny thing, you see these signs and I'm going to tell you when I first got on TV and what happened. But if you go to the flagshirt.com, you can get an array of shirts, including our 250th anniversary. You see I'm wearing a shirt. But so what I did was, there was a guy who actually, JC Penney kind of put him under. He was selling the sweaters, and he was making this one shirt, which we'll turn around here and we'll show you right back here. There's a flag shirt, and that was our first shirt called Benji. And we started with that one shirt, and then my son came into the business, and we started developing all type of patriotic shirts. And at that time, about 25 years ago or so, that's how I got started in the patriot business, because I would call people, and how I got involved in the Republican Party in Broward County. We were seeing how patriotism was, and I would call people and would thank them for the order. And people would say, well, that's very nice. Nobody ever does that. I said, well, that's how I was successful, because by calling people and thank them, they would call their friends, and they would tell their friends, hey, this guy's terrific. He called me and thanked me for the business. So you could see we built a terrific business here on this, and we started adding shirts and adding this. And of course, this year with the 250th anniversary, that's something that we've really started to do big. Over the last 3 weeks, we've increased our business about 30% just on 250 stuff. And I've been sending out little ads and stuff, and calling people and thanking them. So all this is started when I started with the Broward Republican Executive Committee 25 years ago. And that's how I built into Precinct Project, Precinct Strategy, and also our election security call. So we're going to tell you how we did that. And what happened was, I called the Broward Republican Executive Committee for 3 months. Nobody returned the call. So finally, after 3 months, somebody returned the call and said, oh, yeah, we'll have to get you an application. So it took them 3 months to send me the application. Now, think about this. This is 6 months that they're wasting a guy that could be terrific and helping them, and they wasted 6 months. So I go into the first meeting. I sit down. Nobody came up to me. Nobody said a word. So, okay, I went to the second meeting a month later. Nobody came up to me. Nobody said a word. So I said, well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everything going on. And it seemed like a social club. So I went up to the chairman and I said, Madam Chairman, I'd like to take over the phones, and I'd like to also be the membership director. So, oh, that's terrific. We don't have anybody doing that. So I answer all the phones. There's about 186 messages, and I got 23 new members. So we built this up to, kind of present day. I'm the vice chair of the party. And we've done a lot in building this all over the United States. So now you're going to say, well, how did this all get built up, and how did that happen? So as you see in the background, and maybe you can make the picture wider, and we'll show you the pictures of President Trump and myself. I guess it doesn't show. Yeah, right back there, you see the president and myself up in Mar-a-Lago. And we're going to explain to you what had happened. So about 5-6 years ago, how I started on TV was, we were talking about Precinct Strategy on TV. Dan Schultz, I was watching him on Bannon, and I called him up, and it's just funny because just this afternoon, I just called Dan Schultz up and asked him to be our lead speaker on our Precinct Strategy, Precinct Project time. So it all relates. So I called him up and I said to Dan, I said, we have a lot going on in Broward County. And he said, that's terrific. He said, give me some of the things that are happening. And he said, Steve Bannon is looking for success stories. So he said, I'm going to try to get you on. Well, about 3-4 weeks later ago, Cameron texted me, said, hey, we'd like to have you on next week. I said, hey, that's terrific. So they gave me the date, they gave me the time. And I said, well, how do I get on? And they said, you had to use this particular thing that they don't use anymore. And I had to get that. And so they tell me to be on at 10:15. And, you're on the first time. And I'm sure when you did your first show, you were a little nervous. I mean, how does this happen? So I get up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm known for these little cards. And I start writing down, on notes and everything like that at 3 o'clock in the morning. Never went back to sleep. So I get on at 10:15, and I got my tech guy here fixing the camera, and they tell me all things on the background, and Bannon is in the background. I say, "Hey, Steve, I noticed it's your first time on the show. We're running a little late." He said, "But stick with me and listen to what's going on." So it's now 10:30, and I'm listening, and I'm sweating because you're trying to think of what you want to say, and you want it to come out great. So now it's 10:45, and he says, "Steve, we're running still a little late, and we're going to squeeze you in a little bit later, but be patient." And I hear him in the background, during commercials, he's talking to the guests and he's telling them, "Hey, we got to say this." And I'm listening and I'm getting stuff done. And now it's on to 11:45. I had lost about 4 pounds of sweat and I forgot everything I was going to say. But he said, "Okay, you're on here in the next break here. You're on right now. Be ready." So I get on there and I do about 10 or 11, 12 minutes. And, I had no idea what I said, because at that time, you're a little nervous and everything like that. And, they get 2-3 million people on the show back then. So next day they sent me a little clip of the show and I listened to it and it sounded pretty good. And they texted me and said, "Hey, you did a great job. We got a lot of people that said you did good and we'd like to have you back on again." Well, of course, and over the last years, I've been on there probably 100 times. And Steve has really helped us. So let's go back to the picture in the back, because that's very important. So during the time with Steve Bannon, with Dan Schultz, and with Liz Harrington, they worked together in getting the President of the United States to endorse Precinct Strategy. And there's the little assignment, and it says, "Statement by President Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States," and he endorses Precinct Strategy. Now, that took a lot of work to get him endorsed. You just don't get the president to endorse Precinct Strategy just like that. But he realized how important it was. And in the future time, I did see him in another place, and we had a discussion. And he said, if I knew about Precinct Strategy before, I would have won the 2020 election. So 2 days before the 2022 election, I was up at his office. And why I went up there for 2 reasons. The first thing was I was supposed to be up there 2 weeks before that, and they canceled it. So I figured he wouldn't even get me up there. But as it turned out, the day that I got up there, I was up there about 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, we were going to have an event for him. So I knew he was going to be there. That was the good news, because this was an event that he was going to speak at. And we were presenting him with an award for everything he did for Israel. So I had worked on that with this group, Jexit and United West, for about 3 months. Turned out terrific. So as I spoke to President Trump here, he gave me about 45 minutes. My wife was up there and my grandson. And we discussed a couple of things. This was a couple of days before the election. And he said to me, "What do you think about certain things?" And I told him what I thought. And I said to him, "Hey, I got a couple of candidates. I know it's late. Would you endorse them?" And he calls up his pollster. And the pollster says, "Well, your 2 candidates, they're running about 4 or 5% behind. One was in New Hampshire and one was in Vermont." And he asked me, "Do you think I should endorse them?" I said, "Oh, Mr. President, these are terrific candidates, and they probably may lose, but your endorsement would help them." And it actually did. He endorsed them 2 days before the election, which was unbelievable, because here I'm just a guy off the street, and he endorses 2 of my candidates, which I thought was phenomenal. So now we're talking, and I said, "Well, Mr. President, you know why I came up there? I wanted to talk about precinct strategy and getting people involved when you do your next election, and when you go out there and do all your rallies, and whenever you're on TV, please do it." He did it a little bit, but not enough. But anyway, it was good that he did it. And that really helped us out quite a bit, because we could use President's endorsement. Michael Lindell endorsed it, General Flynn, everybody started endorsing it. And then he started asking, "What is Precinct Strategy?" Because we don't know. So let me explain to your audience what Precinct Strategy is. Precinct Strategy is the Republican Party. And Dan Schultz and Steve Bannon 14 years ago put up a website, www.precinctstrategy.com. And who's ever interested and would like to, go to www.precinctstrategy.com. This is the cover of the book that Dan Schultz wrote that tells you how to become a committee man and committee woman. which is Precinct Strategy. Now, when we started a number of years ago with Steve and with Dan, there was 400,000 slots and 200,000 people involved. And unfortunately today, there's 400,000 slots and 200,000 people involved. Now, a lot of people say, well, why has this happened? What does a committee man do? Explain it. So when you become a committee man, a committee woman, which you have to be elected, normally you have to, every 2 years you run just like everybody else does and you get elected. However, you can get appointed if nobody runs in your particular precinct. Excuse me. So when you become a committee man, a committee woman, you attend meetings like I did the first time. But when people attend meetings here today, because of what I know, we try to let them know what they have to do when they become a committee man, a committee woman. You have to get candidates elected. That's your main goal. Second goal is to sign up voters, canvass neighborhoods, do poll watching and poll working, which brings me to one of the things. I was able to get a nice text from Susie Wiles when President Trump won the election. Why did that happen? Because when I got on TV and I got on numerous shows like yours, and we asked people to go to protectthevote.com. What is protectthevote.com? That is the RNC's way to get poll watchers and poll workers. And everybody congratulated me for getting that to happen. So how did this all happen? Well, when I was up with President Trump before I left, he said, I know you do a Precinct Strategy Zoom meeting. Why don't you do an election security meeting with that? Because he asked me what I thought about the elections in 2020 and what the 2022 and 24 election would be. And I said, well, look, Mr. President, nothing has really changed. And I don't know that the election will be safe. And we're going to run it all the way up to today because we've been doing this for 5 years now. So we started the election security call about 5 weeks after I met with President Trump back there. And what happened was I called all my friends and asked them who are the top election security people. And they gave me people like Cleta Mitchell, Joe Von Pulitzer, many people who were in election security and were experts in the field, because for sure I was not an expert in election integrity. I learned a lot, but I'm still not an expert because these people do it continuously and I'm busy doing 9 other things. So as we started doing this, we were getting 500 to 700 people on our Zoom meetings. And about 3.5 years ago, I got on Steve Bannon, and in that morning, he told Cameron to make sure that I put my email on the bottom of the screen. I had no idea why he did that, but I learned real quick. So when he got on, he usually gives me 3, 4, 5 minutes. This day he gave me 10 minutes. And as we were talking, he said to everybody, I want everybody to go on and email Steve to get on the election security call because this is so important for our country. Well, it took me 3 hours to get everybody a link to come on to the show. And I made the show by about 15 minutes to get on the show because I wanted to make sure everybody got it. But he also said, Steve, because at that time, 82 or whatever, he said, you're the hardest 82-year-old working guy that I know. He said, I'm going to do you a big favor. We're going to put this live on the War Room and on Getter. I said, well, Steve, that's the nicest thing you ever did. Why I didn't think it out before, I have no idea. But anyway, the next day, his daughter called me, Maureen Bannon, and says, we had 60,000 people watching this. She said it was phenomenal. So I said to myself, why didn't I think of all these things? But anyway, you got to learn every day. As you get older, you learn. So we started calling podcasters like you, and we got 150 podcasters streaming it. We got OBBM Network, we got Rumble, we got Facebook, we got Cloud Hub, we got X. We kept adding people all the time. Everybody's helping us. Because why? Because we all know that if we don't have fair elections, this country's going down the tubes. And we're coming up against a big election. And during these times, and that we've had all these election security calls, we've done a lot. And we've got a lot of people educated. And that's one of the things that Susie Wiles and all the other people said. You brought every month, once or twice, all these experts on. A lot of people joined, and we're going to have another one here on the 27th of May. We try to have them on once or twice a month. And who we're going to have on this time, we're going to have Jerome Kersey on. Jerome, myself, General Flynn, Peter Tickton, we're working with President Trump on his executive orders that he's been doing, for no mail-in ballots, get the illegals off the voter rolls. And now we're hoping he's going to do one. John Goodman, our good friend, he works with us also. And we're going to hope he causes a national or creates a national emergency for the election, because we know that Democrats want to win the House because they want to impeach President Trump again. So Jerome Corsi is going to talk a little bit about that on the executive order, and also a little bit about Tina Peters on this thing. And every time we have a show, no matter what show I'm on, I always ask everybody to call the governor of Colorado at 303-866-2471. I've spoken to Tina in prison numerous times. We've all prayed for her. We've done everything. She's the most unjust thing that's ever happened to this country. And, you know, people are saying, even now, I read X and they say, well, look, if we can go in Iran and knock Iran out, we can't get this young lady out of course, she's not young anymore. She's 70, but we need to get her out of prison. I mean, President Trump, through Peter Tickton, did a pardon, but because it was a state crime, which they did instead of making it a federal, which it should have been, they won't release her. So we're working very hard on trying to get her out of prison. And a lot of people don't know who Tina Peters is, but look her up. I'll just give you a simple thing. She worked in Colorado as one of the Republicans as an election officer, and saw that the election was stolen. She tried to save the ballots. They wouldn't let her do that. She tried to get the machine stuff. They wouldn't let her do that. So she found ways to do it, and then they indicted her and gave her 9 years in jail, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world. And she's already spent 2 years in jail unjustly. It's coming down now where they're going to have to resentence her, because the 3 judges on appeals said that it was unjust, the sentence that they gave her. So we'll have to see what happened. Then we're going to have Greg Stenstrom on. He has a new book out, I Stand on My Briefs. Catherine Engelbrecht, True to Vote. We finally got her back on. She took off for 6 months to be with her granddaughter. Patrick Byrne, who I actually just interviewed just now before we came on the show. He's going to come on and do our election. Plus, he's going to be on our 250th anniversary. Harry Hardy is going to be coming on, United Sovereign. We're going to have Susan Stivers on. I brought her on because you all know, and you're in California, Orange County, where they stole three votes. And my good friend Jim Hoft, who always comes on, I know you know, he had a stroke and he's in a hospital. He's getting out on Saturday, and we wish him the best luck. But he and I worked on talking about it continuously on Orange County, where on election day, 3 of our candidates won the election. A week later, they found X amount of mail-in ballots that they hadn't counted. Oh, how they couldn't count them. And then it was closer. Next week, they got in, they said, in the mail, we got in 10,000 ballots. Oh, yeah, sure. And it was tied. The next week, they found more ballots. And now we lost all 3 elections. Well, we know how bad that is. And we're trying to expose that the best we can to do that. Now we got Tim Richards coming on from Wisconsin. John Gordon, one of our podcasters like you, he's out of Florida, but he's from Georgia. He's going to be talking about the illegal stuff in Georgia. Erin Atkins, which I've been trying to get her on for 6 months. She's in Palm Beach. Now I'm in Florida and Broward. We got fraud in every place, including Great Florida. It happens everywhere. If you have a Democrat in the area where counting the votes, you're going to find some fraud. Then we're going to have my friend on. We haven't had him in on a long time, Johnny Vieira, and that he has Voter Now. What this is, a tool, an app to fight illegal stuff. So when you see something illegal and you go to the polls, you type it in, and he gets it right out to the authorities that they have to do that. So we haven't had him on long, but we have elections coming up, so we want to get him on. We're going to have a couple of YR guys on there. Now, I always say on every thing, I'm 85 or going to be 85 this week. We're going to have 2 YR guys coming on talking about, excuse me, how to get young people involved. Now, I worked with Charlie Kirk a couple of years ago, and, you know, they try to get younger people involved in precinct strategy, but they weren't able to. But they were able to do a lot to get the people out for the votes. So we're bringing YRs on all the time, and we're trying to get them to start to bring younger people into the precinct strategy Republican Party. Without that, we're dead, because, you know, most of the people that work in the precinct strategy in the Republican Party are between 60 and 90. And as we retire, or as we, you know, something happens where you can't work anymore, you know, you got to get young people. So we're working. We have in Broward County about 25 young Republicans. We're training them to be able to take over. Now, I have a little note up on my screen to take it easy for a few minutes, because I was on Bannon one time and I always put my number up and my email. And somebody called me and said, "Steve, go home, get some oxygen, because you don't breathe while you talk." I'm going to give you time either to do a commercial or a couple of questions, and I'm going to get a little drink of water here.
Yeah, catch your breath and take a drink. And I do want to say this. One, you are a great storyteller. And that's probably why you need to have these notes to make sure you take a break, because you captivate attention, especially the way you paint the picture for the story, going all the way back to the four corners of the storeman and the shirts. But I also appreciate you letting people know that there's a pathway for personal involvement. You know, we constantly talk about, you know, we need Trump to do this, and we do. We need, you know, the DOJ to do this. We need legislators to do this. And all those things are true, but we don't often hear people talking about the individual responsibility, our civic duty. And a lot of it is because I get it. You know, people are working 40, 60 hours a week already just to try to keep a roof over their heads. But we still have to find a way to be vested, because if we're not vested, then everybody just kind of rolls with it. And they're like, oh, this sucks. Yeah, there's fraud. You know, and a lot of people have lost confidence in the elections. But I tell people all the time, if you would get involved, you would realize how many people are fighting, just like you, to make sure that we can eviscerate this fraud that exists. So, Steve, for those people that are listening, that's like, Steve, I do want to be involved. You know, I do work a lot already. You know, is there still a way in some capacity that I could be a part of this? Even though maybe I don't have 20 or 30 hours a week to devote to it.
100%. But before we do that, you know, a lot of people say, "Hey, Steve, you're 85. Why the heck are you still doing it?" Well, at one time, I said to myself, you know, there's not enough people working. And on my 81st birthday, excuse me, I went to New York for a little vacation to take it a little bit easier, which I don't do a lot. And I came home, and there was a letter. Here's the letter. I don't know if everybody can see it. You want to see this because it's very important. And you see where the letter came from. It came from, let's see if we get that down. It came from Mar-a-Lago. And my wife, want to see this also because my wife ripped the letter. She never normally does the mail. And, you know, God came down. And I want to read this letter because this is one of the reasons why I'm still doing this. And this is a letter from President Trump for my birthday. And the letter says, and I'm going to read the letter and show you the letter. Let's put that on the screen. And you see it's from President Trump. And it says, "Dear Steve, we join your family and friends in wishing you a happy 81st birthday. Our nation is strong because of hardworking patriots like you who believe in and defend the great American ideals of faith, family, community, and country first. Your commitment to excellence and dedication to exemplifying the American dream through ingenuity, hard work, and principled leadership is the foundation of your tremendous success and demonstrates the proud spirit of family-owned and operated business. As you celebrate this special day, we know your heart is filled with joy, knowing you have experienced our country's greatest blessings, freedoms, and the affection of your loved ones. Melanie and I send you the very best wishes for your continued happiness, health, and success. Happy birthday, and God bless you and your family, Donald Trump." Now, after I got that letter, I got so much energy. And, you know, you can hear I have a lot of energy for my age, and people don't understand. How do you get that energy? What do you take? You got to be born with it. And you have to live the American dream. That's why we're doing the 250th thing. So your question was, how do people get involved? So we did Precinct Strategy for all these years. About 3 months ago, a gentleman in Pennsylvania, which you'll hear speak, because we're going to have another event on June the 10th. Every year, my son asked me to do a Flag Day event, but this year it's on Sunday and it's President Trump's birthday and everything, the 250th anniversary. So we're going to beat him to the punch. We're going to do this June the 10th, and we're going to start off with Dan Schultz. He's going to be our lead speaker talking about precinct strategy. I will follow him with our new thing, which we started 3 months ago through Jonathan Broadbent, through Joel Brazil, through Andy Meehan. They'll all talk and tell you why we started Precinct Project USA.org. Now, the reason that we started this is very simple. Precinct Strategy, you go to a website, but there's nobody that contacts you or does anything except you read and you find out how to get involved. So our Precinct Project, which we started 3 months ago, we have hundreds and hundreds of people that have signed up. And you can sign up, and I want to repeat it, precinctprojectusa.org. You go there, you sign up, and you can get involved. Now, how do you get involved? We assign one person to 3 people in every state that are on our website, and they will contact you and let you know how to get involved in your state if you don't know how. If you want to, just go to Google and look up your Republican Party in your county. But Precinct Project will help you more because we have experienced people. And on there, it has manuals. It tells you how to get involved. Excuse me. We have monthly meetings where we're going to tell you different things so you can get involved in what you got to do. We're going to give you different tools to work with. We're going to have a newsletter that goes out. So there's a lot of information that comes out. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't have, just like you said, hours and hours. Hey, if you give us an hour a week, an hour every other week. I had people in my office yesterday because we're having a big event, and I'm on top of everything else I do, work and everything else I do, the fundraising for Broward County. So we're going to have what we call Trump Day. Trump Day is going to be September the 19th. Anybody who'd like to come, let us know. It's going to be at the racetrack down here. We had it for the last 3 years. We had 450 people. We had Byron Donalds talking, John Fredericks. This year, we're going to surprise you with some good guests, and you could see this is fantastic. We did invite President Trump. You know, of course, you never know till the last minute if he'll come down, but we did invite him, and we invited some of the other Trump family. We also want to try to invite his youngest son because we want to get younger people involved, and hopefully he'll come. We don't know, but we will have some great people. And this runs from 6 o'clock to 9:30. The nice thing about the racetrack we're at, they got the horses in the afternoon. Right next to where we're at is a casino. So right after you finish our event, you go to the casino and enjoy that. So you got a big night ahead of you. And last year we had, like I said, 450 people. We raised $100,000 toward Broward County. Now, why did we do this? Well, you have to raise money to keep the executive county committees going on. Now, each state doesn't always have executive committees. Some have central committees. Some have town committees. Each state has their own way they organize. And you have to find out how that state organizes. And if you go to the precinctprojectusa.org, our people will tell you what they do. And if you go to Precinct Strategy, you learn. So all these things are very important. Now, we have a lot of literature on our site that tells you everything you want to know. So if I miss something, you're going to find it there. Now, it doesn't matter. Like I said, yesterday we had people in my office. Some came for an hour. Some came for 3 hours. Some came for 5 hours. What they were doing, they were calling people that came to one of our events and asked if they would like to come to our event, or they would like to join the executive committee, because you lose people. People move. People retire. People get fed up with somebody in the organization and they decide to leave. That is the reason why there's 200,000 people. Why it goes up, it goes down, because it's funny. Every 2 years, they vote normally for a new chairman. You don't like the chairman, you may leave. And then when a new chairman comes in, you get back in again. So there's various and sundry reasons. There's also some problems in some of the areas because, you know, the Republican Party has rhinos, MAGA, and establishment people. And we see this in Congress, and everybody hears about this all the time. So we're fighting all this stuff on a continual basis. Now, a couple of people say, hey, look, you have this election security call, you have this precinct strike. Where do we go to be able to see it if we missed it. You can go to Stern American Rumble. Everything is there. Stern American Rumble, very easy. We not only it's live there every time we go on. So if you want to see something and you don't get a link, it's there live. If you want to see one of the back ones and you want to look through some of them, because we've had General Flynn on there, we've had Tickton, we've had everybody, Cleta Mitchell, anybody that's in election security. And we're going to have a big guy on this time, Dr. Rick Richards. He's been on the last 3 times. Why I want him on again is because he has something called ELLY, ELLY. That is a free thing to find all the people that are not supposed to be on the voter rolls. So in other words, he shows you, let's say you live in, what city do you live in?
Out here in the Coachella Valley.
Okay, so if you're there and you want to look up a gas station where you have 150 people registered at the gas station, he will have that for you. Because in California, and we had a girl see me on Bannon, called me up, said, "Hey, Steve, can you help turn California red?" I said, "Hey, look, I'm good, but let's try. Let's see what we can do." So we got a hold of at least 10,000 people, and I spent 6 months on the phones calling different people, getting them involved, and we did spread a lot of goodwill through California, and we still have a lot of followers in California. We try to help. You know how bad California is, and we're hoping that President Trump gets the illegals off the voter rolls, because California probably has 20 million illegal people. I don't know how many are voting, but there have been people that have been arrested now that have voted illegally, and it's happening in many, many states. There's a lot of action going on. You saw the FBI took the ballots in Arizona and in Georgia, and there's going to be some arrests there. I mean, I still to this day say all the people that watched, I don't know if you remember, when the people were pulling out the ballots underneath the tables, feeding them into the machines. I mean, the conservative news showed that day after day after day, and everybody said, "Well, that was perfectly legal." What do you mean that was perfectly legal? How could somebody put in the same ballot 10 times and you count them? So people are going to pay for that. Took a long time, but you're going to see that's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of stuff happen over the next couple of months when President Trump gets back and gets rid of Iran and everything else that he's doing. He's going to spend a lot of time on these elections. Believe me, there are a lot of attorneys working on this now. And as we see with the redistricting and how we're going to have a good chance to win the midterm. But I will tell you this. You have to remember that when there's a presidential election, we have about 80% people vote. When we have the midterms, we get 20% of the people vote. So this is going to be a big election, and especially in Florida, where I'm working here in my area. We got hopefully get rid of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She no longer is running in a Democratic primary. I mean, a Democratic area, because it's been redistricting. So her district is now plus 14, which means there's that many more Republicans against her old district plus 6. So she has very little chance of winning. So that's what we're trying to do all over the United States to make it fair, which it should have been a long time ago. And if the elections are fair, the Republicans will wipe out the Democrats to such an extent there's going to be, wacko. So in the remaining time we have, if you have some questions, I'm glad to answer them.
I do. The first thing I want to do is you have a couple of events that are coming up. One on the 27th, I want you to tell my audience about again. And then one that's going to be coming up on the 10th. So for those that joined a little bit late, if you can kind of let them know about those events and where they can get information on that.
Okay. So you can email me at stern1054@gmail.com.
Today we remember those who gave everything. And memory is never still.
No, Gigi, we can't stop for snacks, dude. We have to deliver all of these soft disclosure gift cards.
He goes by Zach Kane.
The motion detector.
taking over the beer brand.
Life finds a way.
Hydrate your elbows, moisturize your soul. Feel the rhythm together. Makes you feel alive and let the lotion roll. Self-disclosure, hear the cry. Maximum softness, do or die.
Muffin, hit it.
Absolutely the most legendary soft disclosure ad ever, folks. June 25th to the 28th, Badlands Media is heading back to Deadwood, South Dakota for the 12th stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Whether you're attending personally or virtually, a GART veteran or a GART virgin, there's something for everyone. Merch packages are now also available for both in-person or virtual ticket holders. Get your GART 12 tickets today at badlandsmedia.tv/events. Again, GART 12, Deadwood, South Dakota. badlandsmedia.tv/event. And let me, hey, why am I so little? There we go. Let's go big screen. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. A little bit of glitch there at the end, but again, those links will be in the description, even though we didn't get to catch them at the end. And obviously, you can go back and screenshot that. I am going to do the last Rumble ad on here. So you're going to see a QR code on one of the Rumble channels populate on your screen. And you know which one we're going to give love to, the big old Rumble wallet, empowering voices, enabling transactions. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay so that you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download the Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your Rumble Wallet and tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Folks, you heard Steve was an absolute trooper. I mean, you can tell he had a frog in his throat. He drank some water so he could stay in the game. That is the fight and dedication that everybody needs to have. I hope you enjoyed this show. Stick around in about 30 minutes-ish. You're going to see Devolution Power Hour, and I'll be there in the chat with you guys. So again, thank you for joining us, and I'll catch you guys on the outside. God bless, Semper Fi, and good night.